Down the rabbit hole we tumble once again, to a place you remember, but have never truly been, where dim moonlight shines on an age long gone by, where stranger things are happening, and you very well may die. A wonderland unlike any you've ever seen before, captured by a darkness that will shake you to the core. Time is running out. The light is almost gone. Will you become a queen or perish as a pawn? Welcome to Building Wonderland, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Building Wonderland, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I'm your host, co-founder, and head creative at Creative Catastrophe Games, Kyle Shaw, aka The Design Merc. Here to pull back the curtain and show you how we're creating this brand new TTRPG world coming to Kickstarter later this year. We're building the cover design for Module 5 of our 14-module campaign. We are about 2/3 of the way through. Have some serious decisions to make today, so let's get into it. Alright, if you are watching us from yesterday, you remember where we are at. This is the Module 5 cover of a mirror in the forest showing another realm, or another room in this case, as you can see there. If you are not joining us for the first time, you also know that we have the Wonderland logo and module number that needs to go on the bottom of this, so that is why the mirror is in the center. Now, if you are not familiar with what we are doing, I am the co-creator of Wonderland, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It is a new TTRPG that is coming out in a few months on Kickstarter. And we are currently building the 14 module covers that go to the 14 books of this campaign. This particular module cover is of a path in the forest where a mirror-like object or mirror-like thing grows out of the forest and shows you a doorway to another world known as the Mirror Realm. This mirror realm is a large parlor with a fireplace and mirrors adorning all the walls, but it is very devoid of the normal constructs of gravity that you and I are both aware of. So, the floor is on the ceiling, the furniture floats in the air, and the fireplace is upside down and roaring. So as we did in our last episode, we went ahead and built the forest, built the mirror, built the room, put it in upside down, and framed it. And what we are looking at today is a bit of a crossroads. So we have to decide whether we want to continue down this path with the mirror and the room, or, well, I'll put it this way. I put this to my partner Phil. I'll ask you the same question. Do we stay where we're at, keep the mirror the size that it is, keep the room inside the mirror where it is, add the furniture floating in the air, put the titling on, and call it a day? That's option 1. Option 2, we can do all of that. We can also make the room larger. We can zoom out on the size of the room and make it a much, much bigger room so you can see a little bit more about what is going on there. That's also an option. That's option 2. Still the mirror, still in the forest, bigger room. Now we go to option 3. Option 3, we can take this entire image we currently have right here, and we can blow it up to where the edging of the mirror is just inside the page. So you're getting a full close-up of the mirror. Gives you a much more zoomed in image of what's inside the mirror. So that is option, are we on C now? 3. Option 4. Option 4, we forget the mirror. We skip the mirror entirely and we just focus on the room because quite possibly the room itself, the floating furniture, the mirrors on the walls, the fireplace roaring might just be enough and might be more compelling cover. Don't know. Had that thought after we chopped up the room yesterday and cleaned it and fixed all the errors and added a few things and moved things around, adjusted it, as you would say. And once we did that, I thought about the room again and thought, with the furniture floating in it, that could be a compelling cover on its own. So that's option 4. Option 5, that's right, we have 5. Option 5 is to add a particular character, shall we say, to the mix of all this, or a couple of characters, as my partner Phil has so recently mentioned. Maybe we put our heroine Lorena in the bottom left corner, just the back of her head, maybe just a silhouette of her face, side of her face, looking at the mirror. So you get a little bit of that human interaction, human decision making, and then you also can place the size of the immense screen in front of you. So many options at this point. Which way do we go? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to test a couple of these. A couple of them we can test pretty easy and not spend 3 hours having to rebuild something. A few of them are going to take a little bit more work, and we may have to kind of decide to go that route first before we start, wrecking a bunch of stuff. So the easiest thing for us to do right now is to blow up the mirror, see what that looks like around the edge, and see how that looks close up, and see if that's the route we want to go. So we take our 3 mirror layers, and yes, there are 3 currently, including the background. Let's zoom out a little bit here, and let's make these larger and take a look. Now his suggestion was to make sure the mirror was off the page. My concern with that is because we're showing it being grown from the ground, you're not going to be able to tell what this is. Excuse me, because the context of what it is now outside the screen. Yeah, I think unfortunately, at least with this mirror, I don't think that's the way that's going to work. Let's send it over to him and have him take a look. That's the mirror. In. Change the mirror, which I can do. You can't really tell what's going on. All right, so there's that version. That's a little hanky. Let's zoom back a little bit and try another zoom in version, but where we just keep enough of the scene so you kind of have an idea of what's going on. We just do a little bit of a zoom in, not the whole thing, just as big as we can get the mirror in the image. Without disrupting the whole thing. And of course, you know, we can fade it more and shade it more, so that fits. I'm concerned that anything where we blow at least this image up, um, yeah, he's talking about having a reflective sheen on the mirror. And don't get me wrong, I would love to do that. But the reflective sheen is kind of already in the mirror. That's what this is. That's what this stuff is. You're not going to really see that unless I put an object in front of it that's going to reflect back. And usually, at least in my experience, when you have a portal, you're seeing the portal. It ceases being a mirror. Either it's a mirror or a portal. It's not a mirror portal. You got to pick one. I mean, we could do it, but I don't think it's going to look right. So even if I put even if I put here's the thing. Yes, you can put Lorena's head in there. Yes, you could have that you could have her face reflected in the mirror. Yes, all that can be done. That doesn't solve the bigger problem. The bigger problem is there's too much shit going on. You won't be able to tell what's going on. Like, you won't be able to tell what you're looking at. You're going to have her head in there reflected in a mirror in a room that you can't really tell is a room because it's so big in the mirror that you can't tell that you're looking in a mirror. You want a reflective surface on top of that, which is going to make it harder to see the stuff that's in the portal. Yeah, and that mirror has. He sent me an image of. He's not wrong. He sent me an image from The Matrix. I don't know if you guys remember The Matrix. Very great movie, 1999, I think. Of Neo touching the window and his image, like his face reflecting, uh, almost like a funhouse mirror look as he touches it. So you're able to see that. That image is great, and I don't disagree with you, but that's an entirely different image than what we have built. I would literally have to start over. Like, it's a completely different thing. That's not at all the concept that we started with. So I mean, I could do it, but yeah, it's going to be a completely different build than this. That's not what we talked about before. Um, I'm trying to work with what we've got. So if we want the entire image of the mirror and Lorena and her looking like in the reflection and whatnot, that can all be done. But this cover is going to be so busy that when you go to repaint it, you're not going to see all that. It's going to be very difficult to pick all of that out like as it is. So we kind of have to keep it as simple as possible. If you look at this is already complicated. There's already a lot going on here. Like, I'm looking at this going, okay, so is that a mirror? Is that a portal? What is this back here? I'm not entirely sure I like this whole thing on top with the hood of the fireplace, because when it's upside down, it takes up most of the mirror, and you're looking at it going, what is this? It looks like a room, maybe, kind of. Now, granted, it's going to look different when it has the furniture floating through it, but anything else we add to this is going to make it a little more complicated to see what the hell's going on. Now, what we could do, and this is maybe option 3.5, we could have some of the furniture, or obviously all the furniture, in or most of the furniture in the mirror itself, like in the room, and then have one that is coming out of the mirror, like a chair flying at your face. Is that too much? That might be too much. Um, hmm. See, my whole thing is that now that we've done a couple of these, or sorry, a few of these now, and you put all this detail into it, and we saw this with Module 2, um, and a little bit with Module 4. You put all this detail into, the design and layout of this concept, and then you go to repaint it, and you lose like 30% of that detail. It's just gone because of the style of the painting that we're using for the cover. So the trick now becomes, how much detail do you even bother to put in? And then the flip side of that is, what are you actually going to be able to recognize and see once it's been repainted? So I have to think of that ahead of time, um, while we're building it or before we get done with it, because we can do all this, we can repaint it, and you're not going to know what's going on in that room. Like, you're not going to be able to tell necessarily that that's the hood of the fireplace. You may not be able to tell very detailed how many mirrors are in there, even if there are mirrors. Um, Everything's going to get a little more spongy and watercolor like, because that is the style of our covers. Um, you do lose a lot of detail with that. So the detail will be on the inside, just the covers have a specific kind of look to them. Um, so in doing that, I'm a little worried about putting any more things on the screen to make it harder to tell what's going on. Hmm. Because see, okay, so this is the mirror version. Let's go on to our couple other options that we have here. What if we got rid of the mirror completely and just had the room? And we're assuming that this is the room. It may not be. Let's flip it. It's not quite wide enough. Cover the whole page like we need it to, so we widen it a little bit. Just a smidge. There we go. Now, if we were to take that, I'm going to duplicate this layer just in case, because we're about to do some things. If we take this, we slap the Wonderland logo up here. All right, the module thing is fine. Now you have the whole room. Now imagine that there's floating furniture in here on top of it, okay? And imagine that we've darkened this. Appropriately. There we go. It's pretty good. Let's do just a little drop right here. So you can still tell the flooring's there ish. There's the thing. This now becomes about the furniture. Now, again, we can zoom this room out so you see more room. But this would be kind of what it would look like, and then you would have, a couch here floating and a chair over here floating, or a lamp or whatever just floating in the air, upside down, right side up, whatever. That would end up being the image. Now, is that better than seeing the mirror and seeing this in there? Is this a more compelling what's going on in this module? And on top of that, when this gets repainted, will you be able to even tell what this is or what's going on? Those are the questions. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't want to This is a tricky part because you got to commit. One, you got to go some direction. Um, 1 to 2. Yeah, I'm just concerned that if we go with just the mirror, I'm concerned once the furniture is in there, you're not gonna know what you're looking at. Even if we left it this way, because it's still, I mean, it's still painted, it's still watercolor painted. Um, yeah, I mean, even if we left it as is, you still have the painting cover over it. Um, hmm, I don't know. That's a tough one. Well, you know what else we can check? I have a layout doc with the layouts of our. Oh, sorry about that. You're just being weird today. I have a layout doc um, that has the layouts of our covers and some notes on the future ones. Off my screen. Thank you. Let's just do this so I can see. Um, yeah, we have a layout doc for that. So what we might want to do, and I have this here for a reason. These are the 4 previous covers. As you see, we are working on the rest. So we do have notes for 5 through 9. Um, if we are to, and the reason we have this, or the reason I have this, is so that I can see as a series what the module covers look like, what needs to be edited, and when I go back in, because there will be a what I call a master pass once all of the module covers are done um, and quote unquote designed. Uh, I'll run through everything, add the backs of the books, which are usually just extensions of the scenes that we have here. You got to add the back with the content on there. We add those backs. We add in the content that goes in the spine of each book, which is pretty much the same but a little bit different for each one. So that has to be edited, and then we go and send those for a prototype print. Um, but this is a good way to be able to look at the whole thing or the whole set and kind of see where you're going, make sure all of the covers look kind of not similar, but of similar styles. They're part of the same brand. We want to make sure that our content looks as it should across all the modules. Um, so you can see we do have a bit of the painterly style here. You can zoom in to our module 4 cover and our module 3 cover. You see how watercolor paint those are done. So what we do is dump our notes here because we don't need those anymore. Oop, and I just dumped my box. All right. And we will go in here. We will save that as is and see how it looks next to the rest of the covers. Now it hasn't been repainted yet, and we do like to do that once we're finished. But this should be close enough for what we're looking for at the moment. All right, so we imported it. I'm gonna put this into its place. There we go. So the question is, does that look like the next module? Hmm. Yeah, see, I'm super concerned that you're gonna have a real hard time seeing what's in the mirror, like detail wise, being able to see what's in the mirror, unless it's super large. Um, so yeah, it would have to be kind of zoomed in. I mean, we have things in vignettes in these windows, and you can see them, but they're already hard to see and see what's going on. And really, all you can get is there's a character in there. You're not getting, a whole lot of crazy detail. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. All right. Checking one thing here. Checking with our game master as to whether the possibility of, let's say, keeping this the way it is, putting a couple pieces of floating furniture in here, and then having a piece of furniture that is floating out of the mirror. Maybe that's a possibility. Ah. Yeah, everything sounds great if I can visually pull it off. That's how the whole thing works. All right. So apparently we're gonna try to attempt that. And see how that looks. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, that being the case, what we're going to do is get rid of that. We're going to flip our room back around. This way, 180. There we go. Hello, room. Okay. We're going to shrink this. I guess it doesn't really matter. I do want to shrink it back down to. There we go. See the doors. Oh, hold on a second. Do we even see the doors? No, you don't see the door. Okay, so you see the floor, you see no doors, you see just a few mirrors over here. Okay. Just checking what we're seeing in the actual visual. I don't want to, bother going through a whole uh, redo of this if we don't need all that. So, having a day, folks. Having a day. Okay. Doors don't matter. That is fine. We'll put it that way. Okay. We're going to take this image, and I know it's a little off-centered. That's okay. You guys with your 80tism are going to have to deal with it. I'd have to deal with it too. Now we're going to put some furniture in it. So, what's the right way to do this? Well, because we're going to have one piece of furniture floating out of the mirror, we're going to have to keep that independent. We're going to have to place each of these pieces of furniture kind of on their own and kind of image them in. Excuse me. They have to be floating. So what we're going to try to do is so you can see them and make sure that you can see them. There is not a whole lot of room in this mirror here. So you probably have enough room visually to fit one half of a couch, a chair, and then maybe like a lamp or something floating. Well, no, I guess you wouldn't have a lamp. Wrong era. Small table of some kind. Anyway, you'd have a couple things that are floating in there because then the major focus is going to be the third piece that's going to be floating out of there. That's going to be the bigger one. So a couple of pieces only is really all you want to put in the image. Otherwise, it's going to be so busy you're not going to be able to tell what's going on. So to the furniture. Now off to GPT we go. My assistant. I'd like you to create a prompt. Ready image prompt. Several pieces of Victorian era furniture floating in the air on a on a white background or a black background. I want a black background. On a black background. No room, no lights, no ephemera. Just the furniture. All right, let's see if we can give it to us. That was direct. It actually wrote no ephemera in there. That's great. All right. All right. Several pieces of ornate Victorian-era furniture floating in midair against a pure black background. Isolated object composition, no room or environment. Include an antique high-back armchair, carved wooden settee, small round parlor table, tufted chaise lounge, and decorative side chair, all richly detailed with dark polished wood, velvet upholstery, carved legs, curved silhouettes, brass accents, and aged elegance. I feel like I'm selling something on The Price is Right. That is the majority of the prompt. I asked it for a black background, and of course, it put everything wrapped in smoke, which is not something I asked for. Hmm. Although the furniture is great. What we got here? Very nice. Except I can't see half of it because it's got smoke around it. We're going to give it one more shot before I start throwing things at GPT. The furniture images are great, but Journey has wrapped all of them in smoke, so the edges and details are visible. Recreate the prompt so that it is just the furniture on a flat black background. Don't know why that is so hard. Are you trying to generate an image? Okay, just checking. Still using ephemera. Yes, more floating furniture with smoke. That's great. That is not what I asked for. Okay. Put the styling in there because it doesn't need it at this point. We just want the furniture. I love how it basically gave me a lazy boy. It's a Victorian lazy boy with no feet. All right, well, at least the furniture is kind of clear. But you notice, and this is going to be a point that comes up later. You see this chair right here? Beautiful chair. Very well done, very well painted. The painting style is great. Missing a leg. It's missing a leg back here in the back. Now, I'll put that leg there because otherwise it would look ridiculous. That is why you still need humans to do this shit. That's a sled. I don't even know what that is. That's half a chair, half a couch, half a love seat. It's just love. Not even a seat. Yeah, like most of these are missing legs in the wrong places and whatnot. This table's only got 3 feet. I'm not even sure what that is. That's a piece of furniture that doesn't exist in real life. Like it was made and pimp my chair. Okay, so some of these we're gonna have to fix, but we can use them. They're in pretty decent shape. I just wish they weren't stacked on top of each other. Can we try this again? So the furniture is stacked on top of each other. All right. Getting right to the point with Mid-Journey, telling it, listen, I need the furniture not stacked. I don't know what you told it about the whole smoke thing, but I think it's because we said floating in the air, so it's signifying air with smoke. Um, I don't need any of that. I just need the furniture with no background so I can chop them out and put them where I want. So let's try it again. I'm not going to bother with the style information in the prompt because I'm giving it an actual style prompt, so it should be fixing that automatically on its own. Hey, look at that, it just gave me furniture. interesting. Yeah, I think we're going to go with some of the original stuff because I do want it floating in the air at odd angles, not sitting on the floor. Hmm. Hmm. All right. So, first thing we're going to do is obviously it's pushing this blue chair. We are going to make the blue chair the one that is coming out of the mirror. Pretty decent blue chair. Yeah, I think we might go. Too bad. Really like this one, but I don't know how putting that leg on there is going to look. The way they have it angled. This one might be the one to go with, just because it's got all the pieces there already, and I can add one more leg over here. It's just a reverse of that. Shouldn't be a problem. What I will tell you is that uh, regardless of what chair we grab or what version of we grab, we are going to have to cut it out, and that means we're going to have to erase around it, which is going to kind of be a pain, but we're going to do it anyway because that's what we do. This one isn't too bad. Much on the inky rollers there. Well, this is definitely not the direction we want to go in. Let's go back to the original and try that again. Now, see, something like this might work. We can take that out and just tilt it a little bit so it's floating and be good. Here we go. Look how it gives me half a chair. Look at the wing on that sucker. Right. Try one more thing. All right. So it didn't do a bad job with these right here. It just put them all on the floor, so I'm not getting angles that you would get when they float through the air. So we're gonna have to fix that first. Also, still smoke find the furniture. Why can we not just have a blank black background? Oh. Yeah, I'm aware. Let's see if this picks it up. Yeah, see the trick is that what I'm literally giving Midjourney commands to make pieces for me to cut out, and that's not what Midjourney's for. It doesn't do that. It's trying to make a whole image for me. So when we're saying, oh, we need the object floating in the air, we need it on a black background, and blah blah blah, it's thinking spooky. So it needs, light and smoke and whatever, which it does not, because it's not intending on me cutting the pieces out and using them separately. Um, and I don't think it's going to matter because, again, I'm absolutely sure I could just have it do one chair. But even if I did one chair floating in the air, which is what I need, not sitting on the ground, floating in the air, it's going to put all the smoke behind it, and I'll have to cut out each individual chair anyway. So I'm trying to get them all in one image. What needs to happen is we need to landscape this. There we go. We're going to switch to landscape for this next one. Yeah, no, not floating in the air, all facing the same position. Yeah, that's not what we're looking for. Love how AI has to make it harder for you to get the things you want out of it than is truly necessary. It just shoves them all together here too. Great. Great. Okay. Just trying to find the best blue chair. Which one do we want to use? I still think we're going back to the originals. I kind of like this one. Yeah, I think we're going to do it. Bite the bullet. Let's grab it. All right. Now, if we do that, that means that we have to duplicate that, flip it around because this is the image we are creating. It goes in the mirror. There's our furniture. So before we do anything else, let's size our furniture. Because this one is not going in the actual room, it's floating out the mirror. We don't actually need to have the full room set up to do that with, because we are just going to cut it and have it floating right out there. Yeah, like right about that. Right about like that. About like that. Ask the boss a question. Is the fire large enough? Now, generally, it's a silly question for anyone of the male gender because we will always say, no, the fire is not large enough. It's never large enough. I don't know why we just like big fires. However, we want to make sure that's visually distinctive in the image. I just want to make sure that it's the size that he's thinking it should be based on his writing. So we are going to all right, we're going to slap that there. And we are going to cut out all of, that's right, the garbage. All the garbage. All these other chairs. And don't get me wrong, we might use those chairs inside the mirror. But for this particular purpose, they are purposeless. We're going to get rid of them in this image. I just want the one chair. We want to wrap all the way around this. There we go. All right. Make sure we didn't miss anything. Apparently we did. That is how you can tell you've actually missed a part of what you're erasing, because when you go to move it, if it puts the boundary box around just the object, you got it clean. You got everything you needed. If the boundary box is still way the hell out here around where the image used to be, you left dust. You need to fix that. So we go around this again just to get rid of whatever it was that we did not get properly the first time. And there it is. Look at that. Bounding box is now around the object. So we are right about at 1 hour in this stream. So right before we go to clean this, let's take a 10-15 minute break so this kid can get something to eat. And when we come back, we'll clean this chair and I will show you how to make it look like it is coming out of the mirror. And we are back. Back with an ancient armchair. We are going to clean this ancient armchair for probably the next 10-15 minutes. Welcome back to Building Wonderland, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I am your inimitable host, Kyle Shaw, the Design Merc. Over here, creating the covers for our impending Kickstarter launch of the Wonderland Nightmares and Dreamscapes TTRPG coming in a few months. Right now, I am building the cover for Module 5. This is a 14 module campaign. And we are building the design for the Module 5 cover live in front of your eyes. This is how the sausage is made. I'm hearing from some people that apparently watching this or listening to this or whatever it is people are doing is somehow calming and therapeutic. I'm glad that that's how you see it. To me, it is a Wednesday. We do like to keep it relatively calm here. At Dumpy Shaw House. As my wife is working in the other room with her earbuds on to avoid me. And we are cleaning the edge of this chair because we are going to make this chair look like it is coming out of the mirror. How are we going to do that, you ask? You are just going to have to stay and wait and see. Right now, we're slowly but surely going around the edge of this chair, cleaning out all the parts we do not need. Yes, there are easier and faster ways to do this, but what happens when you use those methods is absolutely less accurate. And I am all about accuracy, so I personally like to take the extra time to erase things myself and do manual edits because my eyeball works just fine and the computer likes to mess things up. There are several tools you can use in Photoshop that allow you to encircle and ensorcel an object and then get that particular object to have the edge nonsense around it erased. Unfortunately, it leaves residue every single time, and you have to go around and clear that up. So you might as well just do it right off the bat and save yourself all the hope that it might do it for you because it's never done it for me in 20 years. So I like to do my cleaning manually simply because of that accuracy problem. Plus, I kind of feel like it gives me a little more connection with what it is that I'm working on because I'm actually going in and doing manual edits. It's not like I'm picking a stock photo and slapping a big square on a brochure and saying, "Here, this is what I'm selling you." That's just so sad. Um, we are trying to create something special here, something that's different than anything else that you've seen out there. And that requires a little love, a little personal handiwork. One of the things that we are currently working on now is putting together all of the folks that are going to help us build the products for Wonderland, Nightmare, and Dreamscapes. Obviously, we are taking care of the major portion ourselves, the campaign and the field guide. All of that is being handled by us, but we are not dice makers. We don't make minis. We create worlds. That's our thing. So, because we are just starting out, we are putting quite a few interesting things in our packaging, and in doing that, we have decided that, for the most part, we will be working with individual artisans creating those products because we want this to feel as authentically Wonderland as possible when you play the game. That is really our mandate with Wonderland, Nightmares, and Dreamscapes, is making sure that when you play, you will feel like you have been transported to another place where the wild and crazy things happen all the time. That's the goal. So, in that process, you end up with things like chairs floating out of mirrors in the middle of a forest. Oh, we go. Now, as far as what I'm doing, um, many creative endeavors in one day. You are watching me build the Module 5 cover. At the same time, we are setting the 4 previous covers with the backs of their books, with the exact spine content, and copyright information, logos, things like that, QR code, all that fun stuff. Those are all being set and formatted and ready for prototype print. At the same time, our lovely playtesting group is getting prepped and ready to start recording. That's right, you heard me correctly. Our particular playtesting group will be recording their episodes to be released monthly while the campaign is live. You'll get to see that probably next year. I would expect next year. Now, I realize that we have switched categories on our Twitch stream here and are now in the art world rather than the tabletop RPG world. Testing that out to see if you folks actually pick up on this a little bit more. And in doing so, I guess we should talk about art a little bit. I will start with this, and I have several people that disagree with me, but that's okay because it's my opinion. I do not consider myself an artist. I am a graphic designer. I'm a digital designer. I do know people that are actual artists that paint, and illustrate, and draw. All the old school Da Vinci finer arts. I consider those folks artists. There are a lot of subtle differences. There are very specific differences to me, but at least the way that I was raised growing up was that if you are doing it digitally without the physical elements involved in that process, you're not really an artist. Now, does that mean what I'm creating isn't art? That's not necessarily true. As they say, art is in the eye of the beholder. So, sure, if you look at something I've created and you consider that art, then absolutely, it's art. It's art to you. And that being said, even you personally can consider me an artist yourself. Great, that's your opinion. I appreciate that. I myself do not consider me an artist because this is digital design, and for a fair amount of what digital designers do, we are manipulating and adjusting a lot of pieces together, doing surgery, creating things, out of little bits of other pieces and putting them together. It's a skill. It's definitely a difficult and tricky process that you have to have some skill to be able to do. But I just don't know that digital design fits the bill the same way a painting or a sculpture or even just a mural on a wall. I don't know. It's a very fine line. I work quite a bit with AI and haven't up until it came out in the mainstream. I did everything the old school way up until that. As far as my graphic design projects and working with clients. what you end up running into is you do notice that, at least in my personal experience working with actual businesses and creating content for them, the majority of what you're doing is working with realistic work. You're working with photo realistic images or photo images, or straight up photos, for the most part. And because uh, that's the realistic medium that you work in. Um, you don't deal a lot with having to illustrate things or having to create things from scratch because there are photos you're provided with them. You just need to edit them and put them into whatever formatting and documentation and whatever else we're doing. Um, but for the most part, those things are generally realistic. So in doing that, you're really photo editing, you're manipulating photos. That's not, it's a skill. I don't know if it's really artistry. So that's quite a lot of what you end up doing as an actual digital designer. You're generally not working on the things that you want to work on. You're working on the things that pay your bills. And that's generally client work for corporations, for businesses, for building websites, for building social media content, and not all of that is super creative. It might be in how it's done and what what you're selling, or something of that nature. But at the same time, uh, the actual graphical design part of it is not really something that anyone would consider art. I don't think. Um, this, what we're doing here, I guess you could consider this quite a bit closer to creating art. I know my partner seems to think so, and most of the people that have seen our work seem to think so. Um, and that's fine. But I myself, because I'm the one building it, um, and I'm not using paint, I'm using digital paint. Um, don't feel like that's the right moniker for me at this point. We'll talk again about that in a couple years and see what happens. Um, that being said, all of this digital art is being done with the help of several different applications. Um, most of the actual hardcore editing and design and construction is being done in Adobe Photoshop. Do some minor things in Illustrator when they're called for, but most of the time this work is done in Photoshop. And then I also use, we actually go and build our modules and put together all the pages. There are roughly 50 plus pages in each module, and there are 14 modules, so you're looking at over 500 pages of content. When we go and build that and put that together, that is done in Adobe InDesign, which is more of a document formatting and layout software. All right, all we have left is the top of the chair. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do a little detail erasing here. Yeah, use several different programs, and it's very interesting to me that that's kind of how things have gone as far as the design industry when it comes to tech. It used to be you would way back in the 1900s, as the kids are famous for saying now. They used to sell software in boxes. Shocker. Used to come in boxes on discs that you had to put in a drive in your computer and install them and load them and run them through that. Most of the time, you had to leave the discs in, or you couldn't run the software, especially with the heavy duty stuff. And all of this design ability that really came into uh, uh, computer existence started with MS Paint. That came with Windows 3.1 way back in the day. Very basic, all pixels, um, but still, for the time, amazing. Um, and then we graduated to two different things from there. You then went from having just an application you can paint in to okay, we want to we want to raise the raise the ability on this functionality here and show me what I can really do with this. So the decision was to kind of split duties because you had people that were doing graphics that were working on the actual images, and they needed something that was more specific to that. And then you had people that were doing document formatting or document layout, and that's an entirely different monster. So the computer sphere moved to having things like Word Perfect and Corel Draw, which I think Corel Draw still exists. I don't think Word Perfect exists anymore. I think that was gone like a long time ago. But those were created as kind of suites that would allow you to do both. And then within those suites, uh, the way Corel did it is they had smaller applications within their suite, and they started titling things separately, much like Adobe does with their applications now. Corel was kind of the ones that started that, and then Adobe came along and started doing the same thing. But when it was Adobe and WordPerfect, WordPerfect was more of a document formatting thing. So think of early computer design coming from two different directions, coming from the Microsoft Paint direction, and then coming from the Microsoft Word direction or a text document direction. So if you're coming from those two directions, this side over here is design, is thinking I need to be able to paint things, I need to be able to create graphics, I need to be able to create images from scratch, I need to be able to change colors, all that stuff. These guys over here are thinking I need to be able to fit text and images on a page. I need to be able to deal with margins. I need to be able to deal with text sizes and fonts. I need to be able to put a full document together that I can print and hand somebody. Those are two different purposes for what you're doing. So, of course, you're going to end up making different products for different people and different purposes. So, we had Word Perfect that was more from the Word and document side. We had a Corel Draw that was more from the MS Paint and Paintbrush kind of side. And that kind of started where digital design came from. And then we ended up with Adobe running alongside Corel Draw, and that was kind of a one-on-one competition. There were other pieces of software out there. Some of you guys have been doing this for a long time. Might remember Paint Shop Pro back in the day. It was like a Photoshop Lite, but it was a little bit easier to maneuver. It didn't have so many uh, tools that you didn't really know how to use. It wasn't as clunky. It was a little cleaner. Uh, and on top of that, this is way before anything was in the cloud. The cloud didn't even exist. And when you said the cloud, it meant the ones outside. Um, so back at this particular time, when you're buying Photoshop or you're buying Corel Draw or whatever, you're paying like $600 for a box. Like you would get a pair of headphones in that had all the discs that went to this, that had all the data and the application, everything on it. That's what we used to deal with back then. And you'd pay like $649.99 for all of Photoshop, and you would own that version. You might get a few, occasional web updates that you could install. You'd have to download them separately and install them. But there was no like automatic updating system. There was none of that. You bought what you bought, and that's what you had. So you could work on, Photoshop version 2. You could have that for 10 years and be working on that same version. because it didn't update unless you updated it, or went and bought a new version. So, so at that point in time, um, you would own that particular version of the software, and then the next one would come out, and it'd be like a video game where you have to go buy buy version 3, buy version 4, because there's all new stuff in that. And those were independent purchases. There was no monthly subscription. You couldn't turn it off, and it was expensive. So when you were buying something like that, you were legit a professional designer. That's why you were getting it. You usually weren't getting WordPerfect and Photo and Adobe and Corel Draw. You were picking one. It was like late night host. You picked which show you wanted to watch. I went the Corel Draw route. My mother, who was an executive secretary or an executive assistant back then, she worked specifically for presidents, vice presidents of companies, things like that, and she was more into the document creation and being able to build large sets of text and things like that. So WordPerfect was where her brand went. So we had both. We had Corel Draw and we had WordPerfect. She worked mostly in that because it pretty much ran like Word does now back then. And don't get me wrong, that was amazing back then because there was nothing like Word back in the day. Um, WordPerfect kind of came out before that. Personally, I think that's where Microsoft got it from. Um, but uh, that is what we used back then for obviously the different purposes. Um, I was a Corel Draw guy, so I learned on that. I switched to Adobe once I got to the point where I was actually designing professionally, and it wasn't just pastime for fun. I started using Adobe Photoshop and went from there because the preeminent versions of everything, pretty much. And that's how we got here, folks. So we now have a chair. We now have a floating chair in the air, like we just don't care. Now, it doesn't currently look like it's in the mirror. We gotta make it look like it's in the mirror. We're probably gonna do, say right there. You see, we put it this way, or is it completely upside down? Yeah, I think maybe we put it completely upside down. What do you think about that? Let's ask the partner. All right. We're sending this over to him to have him take a look at it and see what he says. I'm just checking with him to see if it should be that upside down because, I mean, I'll make it completely upside down, but then the room is upside down, so that would make sense that it's floating out upside down. We kind of want the whole gravity means nothing and this is floating look, so you kind of want the chair at some kind of odd angle that is makes it obvious that it's not sitting on a floor, a ceiling, a wall, anything. Oh, kind of like outside. best way to go. See what he says and have a cookie. We're definitely going to have to make it bigger, that's for sure. That's the other thing too. When you zoom out, shadowing. Hmm. Yeah, see the problem is that when you zoom out, okay, and you're looking at sizing, that's like the ceiling that was the floor. This is an entire room in that mirror, so you're not seeing this particular room the same full size that you're seeing the path that you're standing in when you're looking in the mirror. Um, Reason being, if you were seeing it at the exact same uh, uh, sizing of real life, you wouldn't be able to see enough detail in what's going on here to be able to tell what that is. If I expand it to the size of the actual pathway and the trees and everything that you're in that world, if I expand it that big, you'll see the fireplace, a little bit of floor, and excuse me, the belfry. All the smoke goes through the chimney. That's all you'll see. You'll maybe see a little bit of mirror, but that's it. You won't be able to tell what's in there, or just like a fire. And that's it, because it'll be so zoomed in. So what's in the mirror has to be kind of zoomed out and smaller in order for you to catch enough of the image to go, oh, that looks like a room. Even to know it was a room, it has to kind of be zoomed out that far. I think we might want to zoom it out even further, to be honest with you. But if the chair is floating through, um, and we're seeing it in real life on this side of the mirror, it kind of needs to be real sized, as if you could grab it out of the air, put it on the ground, and sit in it. However, we are in Wonderland, where things are not always the size you think they should be. Entirely possible that this chair is any size we want it to be. We could make it super small and put it there. Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense though. I think it needs to be. See, this is like full size. We were putting a chair in this image and sitting on the ground. That would essentially be full size, maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, like that. That would be the actual size of the chair. We can't really put that up there. It doesn't do well for perspective, does it? So you need to shrink it down a little bit. Put it like right there. Hmm. Now, anybody who is familiar with design is going to kind of know what I'm doing, but I'm going to show you guys a little trick. So half design is skill, the other half is sight. Now the trick with sight is there are eye tricks that benefit you when you use them properly. They can help elevate your design so more people enjoy it. And one of those tricks is lining up different objects with different angles and whatnot, lining them up so they are angularly pleasing to the eye, I guess is the right way to put it. So, like, if you notice the edge of this mirror, you're looking at it going, oh, it's a floating chair in a mirror. Looks great. Sure. But what if I put it like that? Now, is that any less pleasing or more pleasing to you? I don't know, maybe. But I will tell you that it looks a little bit different to your eye here than it does there. And the reason is because this mirror line also happens to run along the seam line of the chair. So even though you can't see the mirror behind the chair, your eye gets the feeling that the mirror continues along that same track because the chair has that same track. Now, if you were to change that, you really focus on the chair and you completely lose the mirror, which, you know, is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it tends to be more pleasing to the eye when things have a certain kind of subtle alignment to them, even when you intend them to not be aligned like we do here. Um, Again, it looks a little more aesthetically pleasing to your eye, and a lot of times it's not something you can explain, but when you look at an image, things are placed in certain spots. That can make the image overall more pleasing to you than if things were just thrown everywhere. Our eyes and our minds have a unique ability to kind of uh, weed out the things that make us anxious and go, no, no, I don't want to see that. And, you know, you focus on the things that make you go, ooh, I like that. That's nice. So, we have a floating chair. Now, how do we make floating chair come out of the mirror? Is the question. Start. Let's see how that looks. What we do is we go back to the original base mirror because the original base mirror has the texture to it that you're seeing through the image that's beyond the mirror. You're seeing that like light line right across here. And that is supposed to signify the whole, you know, shine of the mirror and the light that's coming off the mirror. That's what this is for. So we need that same thing on at least part of the chair, right? The best way to get that and still keep the dimension because you still want the chair in front. It's coming out of the mirror. So the image that's back here, the room is still back there. It's not in front of the chair. It's still behind the chair. So you something like can't do something like this because now it's ghosty. It's now materializing out of the mirror. That's not what we're trying to do. It's in the mirror and it's just traversing the mirror. So what we're trying to do is just give it enough desaturation. That's design code for sucking the color out of something. Enough desaturation and enough of that light source uh, going across the mirror, so where it looks like that part of the chair is in the mirror. That's what we're going to try to do. However, before we do that, I have recognized that I missed a spot. That's right, folks. I missed a spot right there. See how that's not cleanly erased? I got fooled by the background. Whoever was behind it kind of shielded me from knowing I needed to clean that. So, not this part. This part right in here does not belong here. Get rid of this real quick. That's part of why, if you watch this long enough, you'll see me do a lot of clicking on and off of layers. It's a habit that I've formed over all the years of designing. I turn those layers on and off because my eye will catch different things every time that they go on and off. And sometimes I'm looking for stray pieces. Sometimes I'm looking to make sure things merge properly. Sometimes I'm looking to see if the lighting's right. Sometimes I'm looking to see if the color is right. Like every view is a different thing I'm looking at when I click those on and off. So you'll see me do that quite a lot. It's not because I'm having some kind of epileptic seizure or want one. I'm literally trying to see specific details of the same image from different uh, viewpoints mentally. Of I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, I'm looking at this specific thing, and seeing how those translate between the layers. So that's how we find mistakes too. So what we want to do is we want to give at least part of this chair the same kind of patina that we've got going on from the mirror. And the best way to do that, at least first way we're going to give it a shot, do it that way. Let's do this. So I've chopped out a piece of the original mirror, and I've dropped that layer above where our chair is. And now I'm going to blend it. Little light source catches the chair. See what works best to the eye. I think that might be it right there. I think that's enough. Not too bad either. Enough. We're going to go with this guy. Hard light it. Duplicate it because this one is normal. Duplicate that. We don't. We're going to take the chair and it. Okay. So what we've got is the chair layer itself sitting on top of the mirror layer. What we want to do is we want to have the chair layer kind of go through the mirror layer. So to do that, we take the texture and the lighting of the mirror layer. We drop that on top of the chair. We blend that in so you can still see the chair, but it's coming through in the patina and in the style that the mirror light is. So you have that layer on there. But once we fade around that, you're still going to see, the chair there, and the part that's coming out of the mirror can't be at the edge. It needs to be before that. It needs to look like, this is literally coming out of inside the mirror, not at the mirror edge. So there has to be a differentiation enough between what you're seeing right here with all this fading and this lighting and the actual chair right here. So we're doing this whole thing with light. What we're going to do first, we're going to fade all of this garbage in we don't need. Is that in the way? And we're going to get rid of all this right here. And we don't need it covering down here. It's already dark enough. We just wanted to cover the chair. We're going to lighten all of this up. It goes back to looking exactly like it did before the chair got put there. All right. Not too bad. Okay. Take a look at this real quick, see what we missed. Looks like we got a couple things we're going to line up here real quick. This doesn't is dark over here. What we're doing is we're getting rid of this edge so that you don't see it. Because you see the edge and it matches up with the mirror, it's going to look less like it's actually coming out of the mirror and more like, oh, you messed that up. And that's okay, because we are going to overlay this chair anyway. Right there. Then fade all this out and see how that looks. subtle, to be honest with you. You may have to amp that up a bit. There. It just looks like the light source is coming out of there. Oh, that's not. All right, we're gonna go in here and drop the saturation on our chair a little bit. Looks a little more ghostly there. That's just sucking the color out of it. No. To just enough of a. It needs to be fainter, but it needs to not give up that background. So, here we go. So we're going to up the brightness. We're going to drop the contrast. And see, that's already starting to look better. I think what we might want to do. Let's see if we do duplicate. Anything. Okay. Don't mind me, I'm just trying out a few things. That is not fun. Here. That up. Okay. Yeah, just thinking in my head how we're gonna blend this. Even if we blend it, like you're gonna see the part of the you're going to see the part of the chair that's in the mirror and the part of the chair that's out, but will you really see like the separation in that? We may have to actually like put something there so you can see it like a direct cut or something. Not entirely sure yet. Hmm. I'm afraid if we just do this and we fade this out. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it has the light source on there, but now it doesn't actually look like it's coming out of the mirror entirely. It just looks like there's light shining from the mirror on the chair. So, we'll have to work on that a bit. But we are going to take 10 real quick here so this guy can go to the bathroom, and then we will jump back in and see if we can really get this chair in this mirror. And we are back. Let's see what we can do about this floating chair here. I think the first thing we're going to try to do, just to see what it says. Let's throw this into Midjourney and see what it thinks about our floating chair. First, GPT, we're going to upload that particular file. We're going to upload that and say in the attached image, the center is a mirror being created out of roots and tree limb in front of you. Inside the mirror seems to be a room of some kind that defies gravity. With a Victorian era armchair floating out of the mirror into real life. Please create a prompt that delivers this exactly as it's been described. The most important focus is the chair coming through out of the mirror into the forest. Okay, let's see what it thinks. And I could do it manually, but you know, this is one of those things where I'm going to let it think for me. Now, this may render absolutely nothing, but all I'm interested in seeing is how Midjourney decides to show the chair coming out of the mirror. Because the prevailing theory at this point is there needs to be a schism of some kind. There needs to be a crack. There needs to be a something there that shows the separation of the two things. So, oh, absolutely using the wrong prompt. We're using the right prompt, using the wrong image prompt. My apologies. I should have uploaded that as the Omni reference. My bad. Apologies, folks. Very interesting things that it came up with. This is a very interesting little vignette. I do like that. Might be an odds and ends mission. We'll see. But this is more what we were looking for. I'm guessing it's not going to have any idea how to do this. I mean, it's got a mirror, but it's got the chair in it. The whole defying gravity thing is losing it. All right, so let's try this again, but we're going to Omni strength way, way up there. Very, very interesting look. It very much has like captured the whole mirror, room in the mirror thing. I mean, it should. I'm giving it the frickin' reference that we built. It couldn't do it. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, it it can't handle the flying chair in the mirror. Yeah, it's not doing that. Okay, please edit the prompt so that the chair looks like it is breaking through the glass of the mirror. Let's be a little more specific. It's not exactly the look I'm going for, but I think it's the information that AI needs to be able to accurately visually portray this. I'm telling it that it needs to break the glass or crack the glass so we can see it. I'm probably gonna have to edit that quite a bit because we don't want it to look like it's cracking the glass. But I think that's the only way that that Midjourney is going to be able to understand what we're looking for. Even when we did a 500 level Omni reference, it loses it with the chair. It does not know what to do with that. That's great. Nope. Can't do it. It can't do it at all. So apparently, and I'm not a big fan of this, but it's apparently the way it works, is if you are having trouble with getting prompt to process properly, the fastest way from point A to point B is to continually tell the system that you're using that what they're doing is inadequate or what they're doing is not not giving you a valid result or not giving you a result that you're looking for. If you keep pushing back on it and saying, nope, you really suck at this, you should get a different job, it tends to take that more seriously because now you've challenged it. Now you've said, hey, you're garbage at this, be better. And it takes that personally. So as you see now, all I did was tell it that and say, hey, it's ignoring your prompt entirely. It thinks you're stupid. Um, it's not cracking the glass. The chair's not going in the air. It's not going through it. Nothing. Mm-mm. It didn't like that. So now it changed the prompt to where there's glass. Now, we don't necessarily want glass. What I do want is this cut line right here. We might be able to overlay this and do some nifty photoshopping and give everybody what they want. Let's see. We're going to peel back these layers here and hold those off for a moment. What is that? Was it you? Oh, you were the top of the mirror. Rid of that for the moment. And because we are going to this bad boy in here, and I need to fit him to the actual mirror. We are going to use some of your pieces. We are going to steal some of your pieces. You can't have them back. Okay, that's not quite big enough. You want to try to line up. You can see the mirror edge of the top layer with the mirror we're trying to lay in. You can see where that inner mirror edge is. And I'm trying to lay it on top of what we've already got. Not quite big enough. You just keep increasing size and checking until it lines up. And we're right there. About there should be the mirror. There. Oh my. So you are going to be shortened quite a bit. And that line. And there's that line. So that should be where it needs to be. Tricky business lining up mirrors. All right, we're only using that side. I don't really care about that side. I want to make this side accurate though, so let's this be perfect. The edge right there. Okay. There we go. There we are. Matter of fact, right there we are. All right. Now, obviously, we have to remove the background from here, and that's all fine. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to line up the mirror breaks with the chair, because what we end up doing is we end up using the mirror breaks to cut the chair out. chair down. I think that mirror break is going to give me what I want. There. We're going to have to put it here. Oh, that's outside the mirror anyway. Okay, that's fine. Want it like right. Huh. Let's see. Would it be better that way? No, it would not. Back to what we were doing. Stupid. Let's not do that. What we want is we want it cut like right there. On that. Yes. Ah, yes. So if we put that there, and that is there, that is there. First, before anything else, is going to be removing all of this stuff because it is in my way. So we're going to move a couple things, get them out of the way of the mirror. Deal. Let's get rid of the chair and the shadow. Gonzo. Want to work. Few quick removals here. Need whatever that is. Just to use AI. See, this is why you use AI, because you use the actual tools and they don't do what they say they're supposed to do. You use AI to do it, and it only does mildly what you're supposed to do. So it's getting a little better. That's fine. Whatever. Whatever, not important. Get rid of that line myself. I can get rid of whatever that is, or at least I thought I could. All right. That. These little dribs and drabs because they're in my way. In my way. All right. That looks pretty good. Thank you. And thank you. Okay. This is a little more reasonable. All right. Other thing we are going to do, because drop this to, we have it 40. Yeah, let's keep it up at 50 for right now. 50. It's 60 right now. We need a chair. All right, so the chair, or at least we're going to attempt to put the chair coming through this crack right here. Big boy. Or do we? Do we move it? And this. Okay. We're going to go through, oh, that. I'm going to go through this particular crack, this big one right here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to fade this left side of the mirror out. Take that back. Turn it all the way back on first and do what I should have done from the beginning and erase all the stuff around it that we don't need. All of this jungle, literally even the edge of the inside of the mirror frame. We don't need any of this. I don't need the mirror frame at all. I just want that edging. So that, all of this will make our lives easier. Interesting how you can literally watch Wonderland go from the Wonderland you know to the Wonderland of Nightmares and Dreamscapes right in front of you as we erase the top layer, which looks all vibrant and colorful and happy. You get the grim, eerie, yet surprisingly elegant background that is Wonderland, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And there we go. That's going to be a little bit easier to deal with. Now that we have that, we don't need the entire left side of this, to be honest with you, because we're not going to use it. We're only using it for the chair. So this can go for the chair. And I'm sorry, folks. It is a fact. AI cannot do this. At least not yet. As Matthew McConaughey once said, be cooler if you did. All right, so there's our tree. There's our tree. Okay. Now we're going to lighten our mirror up and drop it to around, yeah, let's put it at 60. Philip was looking for that kind of mirror blaze anyway. I think we went a little too far on that, maybe. Yeah, let's not mess with that yet. We're going to take that mask layer off that I just put on, and we're going to leave that for a couple steps from now. We're going to go ahead and cut the chair first before we do anything else. So, cutting the chair, what's that going to require? It's going to require us chopping this out of the mirror. So, chop it, I want to put it over it. So I can do it like this and just. I think that might be the way to go. Let's do it that way instead. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this part of the chair here, and we're going to erase the left side. See, it's getting a little bit lighter back there in the background. Good, that's exactly what we want. It will look much lighter when we're done. Okay. And we turn that on. We zoom out. And it's starting to look like it's coming out of the mirror. Now, take our mirror part here That's at 60%. Drop it a little bit more to 40. We're going to turn our scene back on the background here. All right. Now we want to do fading. Our secondary mirror here, so none of this goes up. There we go. Pull that out of the way. Right. Now, that's the edging that we want around the tree line, because you don't necessarily need to see so much mirror-esque edging there. We do want it right over here, so we're going to lighten this just a bit. Start doing some fading around the edge, because we do want it around the edge. We don't want that mirror edge that's over here to get in the way. Go around and very carefully get rid of that. I don't really need these either. Lighten that quite a bit, actually. All of that. And this is just entirely using your own eyes and going, that looks good, that doesn't. Oh, I should backtrack a bit. I shouldn't have made that mistake. That's all this is at this point. Give me a little bit more juice on threshold here. Not there anyway. This here. Really want, what we're really worried about is this edge right here. I know it looks a little hinky right now, but it's just because we're still cleaning it up. Once we get this mirror edge cleaned up where you don't see it anymore and you're just left with glass and the chair and our original mirror, not the overlay we're getting rid of. Once we have that all set, it will look like this glass is part of our mirror rather than the mirror that we kind of are taking it from. Here we go. Just cleaning up that edge, cleaning up that edge. You know, it's very funny. I don't know why this thought just popped into my head, but a lot of the techniques we use in design, so do barbers. I'm sitting here cutting, I'm fading, I'm trimming things, taking a step back to look and see if my lines are straight, making sure that you got just the right amount of gradient and fade in certain places. There you go. Maybe that's a new side of this we haven't discovered yet. Is graphic design is like being a barber. Figure that one out. A little more fade. A little more fade, a little more fade. Just getting the edge where I want it. Alright, there we go. Okay. That seems pretty good, but it comes back down here, so get rid of that. Losing all of this. Yeah, cleaning a little bit of this area, getting rid of some of the overlap. You can still see it down here too. There we are. And let's drop this in here. Slowly but surely, folks, cleaning it up. And, oh, look at that. We don't even need all that. We're being all nice and specific and stuff. And there's a tree here, so you're not going to even see it. Why you click layers on and off and zoom out. Sometimes you lose where you're at and where your dimensions are. Back out here real quick. There we go. Now we got a little ooh la la on the mirror here. At least up in this area. Okay. Let's drop our transparency down a bit and come down here and fix some of this nonsense, because floor from the other image is ruining the ceiling from our image. Funny how that works. We can get rid of all this here. Okay. I think as long as we just remove, or excuse me, fade this area up here so that you don't see the cracks, it'll still keep the majority of the mirror texture. We may have to get rid of those after we merge everything. But if I can lighten these up a bit, yeah, if I can lighten these up a bit and still keep the majority of the, you know, sheen of this kind of mirror overlay, just get rid of the lines, that may be enough to allow us to pull this off. Fade these out as much as possible. Because the problem is you don't, it needs to be separated, so it kind of, there needs to be a crack there, but you also don't want to literally show a crack there, because then the mirror's cracked, and that's not what we're showing. We're showing that it's coming through the mirror. So we're going to have to do a little bit of design magic. That's not going to work through there, so we're going to have to leave that where it is. Just up to that, I think. Yeah. All right, keep that right there. We got this right here. That. Do is we're going to turn all the other layers off, even the chair. Take our magic broken glass mirror back to 100% and do a little quick underground repair. This line we want to get out of the way. We need that merged there. Technically, we want to get rid of all this stuff. Just keep the one line that we're looking at, which is this one. There we go. Here, make it quite a bit lighter. Work. Now we drop it back down to the 40% that we had it at. And we put our layers back on. Oop, oop. Just that there. Definitely. That is. Okay. Now, look at that. That's a little bit cleaner. Okay. We've got a little bit of touch up to do here. We don't want these lines. Good. So we are inevitably going to that arm. All right, let's turn these all back off one more time. Go full 100. We are going to erase this nonsense. Little cover scrub there. No black lines. No black line. You brought it back. Don't want black. All right. Back to 40%. Turn those layers back on the. All right. Now, it's not 100% accurate, but it does look better than it did. What you need to do is get rid of the lighting over here on this smidge, because it is too friggin' light. That's supposed to be behind the mirror. Hmm. Maybe not the best representation of coming through a mirror, but we're gonna go with it. Plus, I'm gonna bet dollars to donuts that it's gonna completely cover over that when we repaint, and you're not even gonna be able to tell what's going on. Um, that's why it's art, baby. So we're gonna leave that where it is for right now, and put some more furniture. See, we are, oh, look at that. We are 3 hours in. We have hit our 4 p.m. line today. Let's put all our title stuff back on and see where we're at. This is not too bad. Not too bad at all. We've got a couple more chairs to add, possibly a little bit of darkness, and then this cover will be finished. So, I say we pick this back up tomorrow at the same bat time and the same bat channel, right here at Building Wonderland Nightmares and Dreamscapes at 1 p.m. tomorrow EST, and we will finish it out then. So until then, this is the Design Work signing off for the day. Have a good rest of your night.